We live in a world obsessed with position. Job titles, corner offices, ranks on org charts, these are often mistaken for leadership. But true influence doesn't begin with a title. It begins with a cause, a sense of purpose. Something deeper than the nameplate on a door or the stripes on a sleeve. Imagine someone on the lowest rung of an organization who wakes up every day committed to helping their team succeed. No mandate, no delegated authority, just belief. That person will inspire more action than a manager who leads only by policy. Because people are moved by meaning, not mandates. Not mandates. Purpose is magnetic. It pulls people in. Not because it demands something from them, but because it speaks to something within them. When we see someone chasing something bigger than themselves, we start to imagine what it would feel like to be part of that pursuit. That's where inspiration begins. It's where inspiration begins. You can't fake it. People can smell false motives a mile away. But when you speak from a place of real conviction, when your words are aligned with your values, others take notice. You stop needing to convince people. They start wanting to follow. Not because they have to, but because they feel they should. Power says, do this because I said so. Purpose says, here's why this matters. Power might get compliance for a while, but it doesn't last. Purpose, on the other hand, plants something. It creates ownership. When people believe in the why, they bring their own how. Think about the leaders who've changed your life. The ones who lit a fire in you. It probably wasn't because they were the most senior, the most experienced, or the most credentialed. It was because they believed in something so clearly that you couldn't help but want to believe too. Starting with purpose means you're not leading for applause or credit. You're not trying to look important. You're trying to do something important. That difference changes how you show up every day. It changes how people feel around you. They stop seeing you as a boss. They start seeing you as a compass. Purpose doesn't require permission. You don't need a promotion to have it. It's not something someone gives you. It's something you claim. It's something you claim. And once you do, others won't care where you sit on the ladder. They'll care where you're headed, and whether they want to go there too. Every movement, every breakthrough, every shift that ever changed the world started the same way, with one person who believed before anyone else did. Not because they had proof, not because it was safe, but because something inside them whispered, this matters. Belief is contagious, but someone has to catch it first. That first person, the one who holds the vision when no one else sees it yet, is the spark. They're the ones who carry the torch through the darkest part of the tunnel. Not with certainty, but with conviction. You can't expect others to rally behind an idea you're hesitant about. People don't follow ideas. They follow people who believe in those ideas with unwavering clarity. Even if they don't fully understand the vision, they'll trust the person who does. Belief transfers, but only when it's deeply rooted. There's a moment in every journey where the evidence isn't there. The results haven't shown up. The odds are lopsided. That's when real belief is tested. If you only believe when it's easy to, you're not leading. You're following consensus. Inspiration begins when you choose to believe before the outcome. Think of the first person who started a company from their garage, or a teacher who saw potential in a kid everyone else had written off. They weren't just investing in an idea or a person. They were choosing to see something invisible. They were voting with their heart before the world caught up. When you're the first to believe, you give others permission to believe too. You make it okay to hope, to try, to risk. That's how cultures are shaped. When one person's belief sets a tone that others want to match. It's not loud or showy. It's consistent, quiet, and powerful. But belief isn't just a mindset. It's a responsibility. It means showing up when it's inconvenient, standing firm when it's unpopular. It means carrying a vision through rejection, setbacks, and doubt. Because if you drop it too soon, no one else will ever get the chance to pick it up. Being the first to believe doesn't mean you have all the answers. It means you're willing to go first, to risk looking foolish, to bet on something simply because you know in your bones that it's worth betting on. Others won't follow your plan. They'll follow your courage. Anyone can give directions. Anyone can write a to-do list or point out what needs to be fixed. But real leadership isn't about telling people what to do. It's about showing them how to be. The most trusted leaders aren't the loudest voices. They're the clearest examples. People are always watching, especially when you think they aren't. They notice how you respond under pressure, how you treat the person who can't do anything for you, how you act when no one's applauding. No one's applauding. Every choice you make either builds trust or erodes it, whether you mean it to or not. Instruction creates rules. Example creates culture. You can tell a team to be honest, or you can live in a way that makes honesty the norm. You can demand excellence, or you can quietly pursue it in the way you work, the way you listen, the way you show up every single day. There's something disarming about watching someone be what they want others to become. It removes the pressure to perform and replaces it with the desire to match. Not out of fear, not out of obligation, but out of respect. Example doesn't push, it pulls. When things go wrong, people don't look to the mission statement. They look to the person they trust. And if that person they trust, and if that person remains calm, grounded, and consistent, it steadies everyone else. That's what it means to lead with your presence, not just your words. You can't delegate character. You can't outsource courage. If you want others to care, you have to care first. If you want them to work harder, you have to show them what effort looks like when no one's keeping score. Your life becomes the blueprint. When leaders rely on instruction alone, they often create compliance without commitment. People might do the minimum, but their hearts won't be in it. But when they see someone who walks the talk, they begin to internalize the standard. They don't just follow rules, they adopt values. The irony is that leading by example often looks quiet. It doesn't draw attention. It doesn't demand praise. But it leaves a trail. It leaves a trail. And over time, that trail becomes a path others want to follow, not because they were told to, but because they saw something worth becoming part of. Most people can explain what they do. Some can even tell you how they do it. But very few ever pause to ask why. Not the surface reason, the deeper cause, the belief, the purpose. And yet, that's the part people connect with. That's what moves them. Facts inform, but they don't inspire. Instructions can tell people what to do, but only meaning gives them a reason to care. When people understand the why behind something, it stops feeling like a task and starts feeling like a contribution. Suddenly, their work becomes part of something bigger. You can't rally people around bullet points, but you can rally them around belief. The what changes all the time. Products evolve, strategies shift, roles get redefined. But the why stays steady. It anchors people in uncertain moments and gives them a reason to keep going when it gets hard. Think of the stories that stick with us. They're not about data. They're about emotion. We remember the leader who risked everything to fight for something they believed in. We remember the moment someone stood for something when it would have been easier to stay quiet. Those stories aren't about what they did. They're about why they did it. When you speak only to the what, you leave it up to people to guess the meaning. And when people are left to guess, they fill in the blanks with their own assumptions. Some helpful, some not. But when you speak to the why, you shape the narrative. You give people something to belong to. A paycheck will get someone to show up. A purpose will get them to show up with their heart. That's the difference between managing and inspiring. Managers explain duties. Leaders explain reasons. And when people know the reason, they'll find the energy to do more than they thought possible. The why isn't about slogans or motivational posters. It's about clarity. It's about being honest about what matters to you and being willing to say it out loud. That kind of clarity doesn't just motivate, it aligns. People stop working for approval and start working for meaning. Learn. When leaders consistently speak to the why, they don't have to micromanage the what. People begin to make decisions that reflect the deeper purpose. They take ownership. They become advocates, not just employees, because they're no longer following a task list. They're following a cause. There's a difference between being in charge and taking care of those in your charge. One uses authority to get things done. The other uses empathy to lift others up. True leadership begins the moment you stop asking what people can do for you and start asking what you can do for them. Serving doesn't mean being passive. It means being present. It means knowing your people well enough to recognize when they're struggling, when they're ready to grow, when they need space, and when they need you to step in. It's about choosing to carry weight, not assign it. Anyone can give orders. It takes far more strength to support someone through uncertainty, to stand beside them instead of above them. When people feel supported, they rise. When they feel managed, they shrink. An inspiration rarely comes from someone who sees others as tools for their own success. Serving starts with listening. Not listening to respond, but listening to understand. Leaders who serve pay attention to more than outcomes. They pay attention to people. They know that performance is often the result of how seen and safe someone feels in their environment. Commanding gets you control. Serving earns you trust. And trust is what allows people to be honest, to take risks, to push themselves without fear. It creates a culture where people feel like they matter, not just because of what they produce, but because of who they are. You don't serve by doing everything for others. You serve by equipping them, by believing in them, by helping them uncover strengths they didn't even know they had. The goal isn't dependency, it's empowerment. It's creating conditions where others can thrive, even when you're not in the room. Some of the strongest leaders never raise their voices. Their influence doesn't come from pressure. It comes from presence. They show up consistently. They model humility. They do the hard, unglamorous work quietly because they know that leadership isn't about attention. It's about responsibility. When you choose to serve instead of command, you make it clear that the mission isn't about you. It's about what you're building together. That shift changes everything. It makes people feel like partners, not subordinates. Not subordinate. And people will work harder for something they feel a part of than something they're told to do. It's easy to get people to follow rules, threaten consequences, set targets, measure performance. But following rules isn't the same as being engaged. Compliance is about doing what's required. Cool. Belonging is about feeling like you're part of something meaningful. One checks boxes, the other builds commitment. People don't want to be managed. They want to be valued. They want to know that their voice matters, that their presence makes a difference. When someone feels like they truly belong, they don't just show up. They bring their whole self. They care more, contribute more, and stay longer. You don't create belonging by demanding it. You create it by designing an environment where people feel safe, seen, and respected. That happens in the small moments. How you respond to a mistake, whether you listen with patience, how you celebrate contributions that no one else noticed. Belonging isn't built in policies. It's built in culture. It's how a team talks when the leader isn't in the room. It's whether people feel comfortable saying, "I don't know," or "I need help," without fear of judgment. It's the feeling that no one has to wear a mask to fit in. When people comply, they do the minimum. They follow the rules, avoid conflict, stay inside the lines. But when people belong, they take ownership. They speak up when something feels off. They offer ideas. They go out of their way to support others, not because they're told to, but because they want to. Creating belonging means being intentional. It means asking whose voices are missing, whose contributions are overlooked, whose potential hasn't been fully recognized. It means creating room for difference and understanding that inclusion isn't just about fairness. It's about strength. Leaders who focus only on performance often miss the root of performance. It's not just about skill, it's about connection. People perform better when they feel they matter. When they're part of a team that doesn't just need them for what they do, but values them for who they are. Tuta. The goal isn't to get people to behave. The goal is to build a place where people want to be. Because when someone feels like they belong, they stop asking, "What do I have to do?" and start asking, "What can I contribute?" It's easy to talk about the dream. It's energizing to describe the end goal, the big picture, the future that everyone's working toward. But if all people ever hear is the vision, they start to feel disconnected from the reality. They wonder if their day-to-day effort even matters in the grand plan. Vision alone can feel distant. Perfect, untouchable, but struggle. That's human. That's what brings people in. When leaders are willing to share the weight of the journey, the setbacks, the uncertainty, the moments they almost gave up, it reminds everyone that they're not alone in the effort. People don't bond over perfection. They bond over pressure, fatigue, mistakes, and recovery. When someone shares what they've been through, not just where they're going, it builds trust. It creates space for honesty. It allows others to admit their own challenges without fear. Struggle doesn't weaken leadership. It strengthens connection. When you let people see that the path hasn't been easy for you either, they don't lose respect. They gain courage. They see that doubt is part of the process, not a sign of failure. That persistence matters more than knowledge. Leaders who only communicate vision run the risk of unintentionally creating distance. The message becomes, "A look how far ahead I am," instead of, "A look how far we've come together." Sharing the struggle invites people into the story. It gives them a role in the resilience, not just the results. The results. You don't have to share every detail, but you do have to be real. Real about what it takes to keep going. Real about the things that don't work the first time. Real about the pressure of holding a vision while managing fear. That kind of honesty makes others feel like they can carry part of it too. When you share the struggle, you give meaning to the work. It's no longer just a job or a list of tasks. It becomes a shared mission. And people are far more committed to missions they've bled for than to visions they've only heard described from a distance. The story that inspires is rarely the one where everything went according to plan. It's the one where people got knocked down, got back up, and chose to keep going anyway. Not because it was easy, but because it was worth it. Trust isn't something people owe you because of your title. It's something you choose to give before it's earned, and that's what makes it powerful. When you trust someone first, before they've proven themselves, before they've guaranteed an outcome, you send a message that says, "I believe in you." Most people wait to trust until it's safe. Until they've seen the metrics, the track record, the compliance. But that kind of trust isn't really trust. It's verification. The kind that inspires is the opposite. It's when someone gives you space, autonomy, and belief before you've checked all the boxes. When you trust first, you take a risk. You open the door to being let down. But you also open the door to possibility. People tend to rise to the level of trust they're given. When they feel believed in, they show up differently. Not because they're afraid to fail, but because they don't want to disappoint someone who saw something in them. Influence doesn't start with control. It starts with connection. And connection is built on trust. If people don't feel safe with you, safe to be honest, to take initiative, to make mistakes, they won't be moved by what you say. Influence grows where trust is planted. Trust first doesn't mean being naive. It means choosing generosity over suspicion. It means giving someone a chance to be more than what's on their resume, more than their worst day, more than their first impression. That kind of leadership changes the atmosphere of a team, not just its output. Influence is never about how many people follow your directions. It's about how many people follow your example, even when no one's watching. And people don't mimic perfection. They mimic character, especially when that character shows up consistently and trusts others to carry part of the mission. A leader who trusts first makes it safe for others to speak up, to try new things, to admit when they're stuck. That safety unlocks innovation, creativity, and ownership. It tells people they're not being measured, they're being supported. And people thrive in environments where they're supported. The most influential leaders aren't remembered for their commands. They're remembered for the belief they placed in others long before it was obvious, for seeing potential where others saw risk, and for choosing to trust, not because it was easy, but because it mattered.